Hello, Waynes, as we say. Children, I hope you're all well. Fresh and well you're looking anyway. Frank Galligan here. And for the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to have a look not just at the imagination, but very importantly, the use of our senses. Not just to appreciate poetry, but to write poetry as well. And I'll be telling an odd wee yarn in between. And I have many of them from schools in particular over the years. I have a couple of lovely poems and songs indeed that we did under the auspices of Arts Care when we were in Knockavoe School and Resource Centre in Strabane last year. And the subject of schools, many years ago, a couple of decades ago perhaps, I was in a school and I was talking about Roald Dahl. Which is something I quite like to do when introducing myself to children. A great mark of any writer is if the grown-ups as well as the wee ones, love the writer, and I think we all love Roald Dahl, not just the stories obviously and the poems, but the movies as well. I think David Walliams is your big favourite nowadays, Michael Morpurgo and so many other extraordinary writers that are out there. But I was in a school in the north, and there were perhaps 30 to 40 kids in the class. There were so many children anyway that the teacher had to put stickers on them so that I could say hello Jimmy, hello Mary, etc, etc. So this wee chap came wandering up from the back with a sticker attached to the top of his thumb, and he famously said, "There's your sticker, mister." And he pinned this particular sticker to my lapel, the lapel of my jacket. As you can see from this battered, bruised and well-used jotter, it's an old one, as is the sticker, as is this guy, by the way. So I looked down at my lapel and I saw the initials BFG. And I thought, wow, thanks very much, says I to the young fella. I said, "Big friendly giant." And he says, "No, that's you, mister. Big Frank Galligan." And he was about your age, you know. I always remember that. It's lovely to go back to schools now, and the rumour has spread. And I was in a school quite recently. Well, you've been closed for a wee while, and when I walked in, the kids went, "The BFG's here," so it's what we call a wonderful icebreaker. But that being said, I read Roald Dahl's life story some years ago and was fascinated at the whole business of one of the world's greatest writers leaving his big mansion in the south of England and toddling down every day a little pathway to the garden shed, literally. He spent all day in the garden shed. Can you imagine that? With bright yellow paper and pencils and a blanket around him to keep him warm and a flask of thermos flask of tea or coffee, whatever. And that always intrigued me. And when I tell children like yourselves, they'll say, "But why do you spend time in the garden shed?" But you know why. You often tell me things like, "The phone doesn't be annoying him." Exactly. He has peace and quiet. His thoughts are better. The imagination works better. And there are many reasons for that. But perhaps about 30 years ago, I came across a wonderful poem written by Anonymous. In fact, when I was wee, which is a while ago, but when I was about your age, I thought the same Anonymous wrote every poem, you know. I used to read poetry. I loved it when I was wee. I'd read anything. I'd read the back of a cornflakes box, my mother used to say. And I would say, "Isn't this Anonymous a great poet altogether? He has 6 or 7 poems, or she has, in this volume." I thought the same Anonymous wrote them all. But one particular poem that Anonymous wrote was called "I Asked the Little Boy Who Cannot See," and this has made a huge difference in how I look at creative writing ever since, and I love using it in schools. And the poem's very simple. If you imagine that one of the little protagonists in this poem, unlike us, is very lucky, he can see. And we take sight for granted nowadays, not just in school and reading books, but we take our sight for granted because of Xboxes and mobile phones and Skype and so many other things. But imagine if you couldn't. How would your imagination work then? Well, this poem taught me a lot, because the poem says, I asked the little boy who cannot see, what is colour like? Green, he said, is like the rustle when the wind blows through the forest. Running water that is blue, and red is like a trumpet sound. And pink is like the smell of roses. And purple must be like a thunderstorm. And yellow is like something soft and warm. And white is a pleasant stillness when we lie and dream. Isn't that the most extraordinarily beautiful poem and descriptions of colour? And what makes them more beautiful, the little boy can't see them, so he has to use his other senses. Green, he says, is like the rustle when the wind blows through the forest. He's hearing that sound. Running water that is blue. What do you do with water? You don't have to see it. You can hear it trickle. You can taste it. You can use all of your senses with water. In fact, I was driving underneath the Foyle Bridge, the Craigavon Bridge in Derry some time ago, and you could smell it as well, but that's another day's story. Why do you think the little boy says red is like a trumpet sound? It's not extraordinary. He hears a trumpet, he thinks red. It's very simple. It's loud. Red is a loud colour. He knows that instinctively, so when he hears the trumpet, that's loud. Pink is like the smell of roses. Maybe you think red when you smell roses, but he thinks pink. Purple must be like a thunderstorm. I love that. If I put blindfolds on all of you children, I'm not that cruel by the way, and put you outside into a thunderstorm, would you need to take off the blindfolds to know there was thunder? No, you wouldn't. Like a wee boy said to me in a class one time, no, you wouldn't, mister. He says, and I'll tell you one thing, he says, if you got a slap of lightning in the bake, you'd know that as well. I love that description. Yellow is like something soft and warm. Second last line. Imagine the sunshine. You feel the sunshine. Yellow, something soft and warm. Or another little child, I think it was up in Draperstown in County Derry, from a farming background, says, do you know what it's like, mister? It's like holding a day-old chick in your hand. Gorgeous. And the last line, white is like a pleasant stillness when you lie and dream. You know, when you just fade away at night, you fade into the white, the pillows, the sheets. You dream. Clouds, snow, whatever. So that poem made a huge impression on me. As a result of which, when I'm working with you and getting you to write, I would often ask you to do things like write me lines and just use all of the senses. Sometimes one of the things I do with colours, I'll ask you to write about colours and I won't allow you to see them. So you can't say boring things like the grass is green or the sky is blue. I prefer what children have written for me over the years. And here are some examples. When we're talking about the fire, the wonderful imagination that one gets sitting opposite a fire, and the flames burning. And this was written by children about your own age. Red crackles like dried leaves on fire. Grey hisses like ash in the morning. Black sizzles like turf from the hill. Orange glows like a dragon's tongue. White fades like dying coals. Brown splutters like wet timber. Blue sparkles like an angry fire. Amber fades like heat at night. Purple blinds like a fiery flash. Pink burns like our cosy faces. Yellow shines like the first flame. And violet warms like an inferno. And when it comes to the whole business of senses, you know what's most important. If I get you writing a half an hour before lunchtime, you'll always think taste and smell. Because the wee stomachs are churning and rumbling, aren't they? And here's a great wee example of that written for me by a class a few years ago. Spring smells like steaming stew. Summer smells like barbecues. Autumn smells like burnt toast. And winter smells like a turkey roast. So you see what's manageable, and you don't always have to see what you're writing about. Because Roald Dahl, when he looked out of the window in the garden shed, he didn't see Mr. Twit, did he? No, but in his imagination he could smell him, Mr. Twit and his dirty old beard, full of sardines and scrambled eggs. And as a wee fellow in a school in Belfast said to me once, Mr. Twit has a 7-inch pizza in his beard, mister. Now there's a proper use of the imagination. He didn't see what he wrote about, he imagined them. And the imagination can be born out of the use of all our collective senses, very importantly.